As I mentioned, thank you again for joining us. And this is the Business Basics Structures, Fast Track Filing, and Constructive Considerations webinar hosted by the Iowa Secretary of State's office. Now I'm going to, Secretary Pate's going to say some words.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Iowa Secretary of State Paul Pate. I want to thank you for joining us for our webinar today about our office's role as the state's filing cabinet for various business entities. Today, you're going to receive more information about submitting business filings to our office and using our online fast-track filing system. As Iowa's business portal, it's important to us to connect with Iowa's business community to help you receive resources that will enable you to run a successful and efficient business. We launched our fast-track filing system in 2018 to benefit business owners by providing a platform where filing submissions are processed at the speed of business. Today's webinar will cover upcoming spring filing deadlines, submitting filings through the fast-track filing system, answers to common questions our business services team get asked, and more. I hope that our webinar will provide useful information for you moving forward, and I invite you to look out for future webinars on a range of business-related topics. I want to thank you to Ashley and Carl for presenting this important information today, and thank you again to all of you for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Secretary Pate, for those remarks. So my name is Ashley Merkley. I'm the Business Services Outreach Specialist here at the Iowa Secretary of State's office, and I'm being joined by Carl Dietz. He's our Director of Business Services here at the office. So just before we start out into the content itself, I do want to give a little disclaimer. So while we're going to be discussing various business structures that are required by Iowa law to register with our office, there are some questions that our office cannot answer because we do not provide legal advice. We're not authorized to do that. So while we cannot provide legal advice or extensive guidance, your own legal counsel would be the ideal resource for that kind of guidance. And we can also refer you to a variety of organizations with further resources for those types of things.
So good morning. As Ashley said, I'm the Director of Business Services, Carl Dietz. We're just going to do a brief overview here, and then we'll get into some specifics. The Iowa Secretary of State's office acts as the state's filing cabinet for various business entity types and all the filings related to those businesses. Under Iowa law, some business structures can exist without interaction with state government, but most business structures are created through filing a registration document with our office. So, sole proprietorships and general partnerships are the main two types of entities that don't need to file anything with us in order to come into existence. They may still have other registration and filing requirements, such as registering a trade name with the county recorder's office, but they don't have to register with the Secretary of State's office. So, there are some well-known entity types that do need to register and file documentation with our office, and they include limited liability companies, profit corporations, nonprofit corporations, and there are some other types which I'll mention in a couple of minutes that are lesser used, but apply to specific situations that also need to register with us. Most of these entities also need to submit a biennial report to us every 2 years in order to remain in active status. That's what biennial means, every 2 years, obviously. Next slide, please. So a limited liability company has pass-through taxation, but it can shield its owners' personal assets from liability. You can learn a lot about LLCs in Iowa Code Chapter 489, which governs the structure of LLCs in Iowa. What you need to know mainly is that when interacting with our office, what you would file to start an LLC is called a certificate of organization. Now, there's no form for this. It's not really like applying for a driver's license. You need to draft your own document called a certificate of organization, but it's comparatively simple. You just need to see what the requirements are in Iowa Code Section 489-201. Now, when I talk about Iowa Code chapters and sections, this is Iowa law, and you can look all this stuff up online because it's obviously it's all public record. It's Iowa public law. But you can also find examples of these kinds of documents online, so you can get an idea of what they need to look like. So when you're typing them up, they don't need to be anything fancy. They just need to have the required elements that are from the code there. Biennial reports for LLCs are due in odd-numbered years. meaning that for any LLC that was created before 2025, that entity owes us a biennial report this year. And then the next one would be in 2027, right? So profit corporations are a little different than LLCs. While they can also shield their owners' personal assets from liability, they are subject to what's called double taxation. Now, this is not a tax webinar, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, but essentially the shareholders get taxed on their personal income, but then the corporation is also taxed separately. That can be advantageous in different ways, depending on the size of the entity and what it does. That's just something to go over with your legal counsel about which is right for you. The document that you file to register a profit corporation is called Articles of Incorporation. 490-202 is where you'll find the specifics for what needs to be in that document. Biennial reports for profit corporations are due during even numbered years. So not this year. Nonprofit corporations are similar to profit corporations in many ways, but they're subject to additional regulations in order to permit them to have special tax status. You can learn about nonprofit corporations in Iowa Code Chapter 504. They also file articles of incorporation. That's 504-202 for the specifics on that. Biennial reports for nonprofit corporations are due during odd numbered years. So just like LLCs, if you formed a nonprofit corporation before this year, you owe us a biennial report this year and in 2027. I mentioned earlier some less common business entity structures, limited partnerships, limited liability partnerships, and cooperative associations are some you may have heard of. Those are covered by Iowa Code chapters 488, 486A, and 497. You only need to know about those if they apply to the kind of business that you're doing or the kind of organization you want to have. And of course, you can go over that with your attorney. Okay.
Yep, and then something really quick to mention. We didn't put this on the slides, but if you want to look up those Iowa code sections, you can do so for free. A really good way to do that is actually to go to the Legislative Services Agency website, which is just legis.iowa.gov. So legis.iowa.gov. And they have like a sidebar menu in there. And if you click on, or sorry, not click, but if you find that menu on the left, it'll show you, like, you can look up chapters there. So now we're going to kind of go through fast track filing. So for submitting filings through fast track filing, so if you are not already aware, fast track filing is our easy to use online filing submissions website. We launched it in 2018 and we've seen a lot of success with fast track filing. Had a lot of good feedback and lots of filings done on there, which is awesome. It's free to create an account and you will need to use one to submit most of your business related filings if you choose to submit your filings through fast track filing. I'm also going to show you an example filing on how to do that in a minute. But you may create an account and access the website itself by visiting filings.sos.iowa.gov. The other good thing about fast track filing is it has a resource center, and that includes tutorials on submitting filings as well as answers to FAQs. These resources can be found by visiting help.sos.iowa.gov. Additionally, if you do not have an account yet and you're just kind of wanting to check out that help center, if you visit the home website at filings.sos.iowa.gov, there's going to be like a login screen and you'll see a hyperlink that says need help, and then it'll have that link to the resource center there too. So now I'm going to show you how to submit a biannual report filing to our office. We're going to be using a test account to show that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a minute while I pull that up, and then I will reshare my screen. All right. So as you can see, I'm logged into fast track filing right now. So if you were, I have it already pulled up, right? But if you log in and you go to business filings, file a document, there is going to be, I can just show you. If you scroll down to existing entities, because obviously if you're filing a biannual report, you already have that entity there. And as you can see, there are some differences in fees here. For a nonprofit corporation, there is not a fee for filing that biannual report with us, but there are fees for the LLC and LP and then the for-profit corporation. So this will be what it looks like when you're logged in and you click on business filings. and then you click on File a Document. If you want to scroll down to Existing Entities, click on Biannual Report right here. I'm using a test account for this purpose. So I would search my name there, it will pull it up, and then I would go ahead and click on that. And then this is what it's going to look like when you get in there. So the name of the company is going to be up here. This is going to be pre-populated with your information. Your registered agent, registered office are right here. And then there's some other applicable information you may or may not have to fill out. So just make sure to pay attention to that. You're going to want to fill out your principal office, which is the main address of conducting business. And the other good thing about this is that if you have any questions on any of this terminology, there is some question marks right here, and those will give you more information. So you're going to want to also answer these questions about agricultural land as well. And then right here, this is where you will do your electronic signature. It's important to make sure you have to check this box to move on actually. But it's important to understand that this is an electronic signature. So it is like an official signature. So make sure that you put your full legal name here and that it's signed by the authorized individual. And then let's just go through this, right? So I'm going to hit no here and no here. I'm going to try that, and then we're going to hit review and pay. As you can see, the fee is listed here as well. And then once you do that, you're going to get to this review screen here. So this is an important section to check and make sure that you're not missing any information or that you don't have any typos. Fast track filing is really nice and that it actually won't let you move on if you're missing certain information. However, what you enter into fast track filing is what will be on record with our office. So you do want to make sure that you don't have any typos or anything like that. So once you get to this screen, just make sure to go ahead and review your filing submission. You'll see that your corporation number is going to be up here in the corner. It'll have our seal on it as well. And then all your information is going to be right here for you to review. Then at this point, you're going to want to click on add to cart down here. And so at this point, if you have another filing that you would need to file, you could click file another filing, or if you're done and you just need to file your biannual report, you can click finish and check out. As you can see, there's going to be a test account, obviously for this purpose. But if I were to click this, right, and then fill this in and submit to file, then I would get a message that the filing has been submitted. So that's how you would go ahead and file a biannual report. Additionally, I have this on a slide as well. But if you need to know the status of any of your business filings, you're going to want to click on business filings and then dashboard. So this is going to show you if you have any pending filings that need to be approved by our office, or if you have filings that have already been approved by our office. So that's a really good way to check that as well. And everything will be clearly laid out here for you. So that is how you would file a biannual report on fast track filing. I'm going to stop sharing again and then reshare to pull the slides back up. No, sorry. Okay. And then additionally for fast track filing, our office does post timely relevant notices on the homepage of fast track, which you will see after logging in. So I guess I didn't show that, but if you were to go to that homepage, there's going to be some messages there. We have added several filing types to fast track filing in 2024, and we are always adding new filing types into the system as well. Always looking to add more and make everyone's experience easier. Some tips for submitting filings through fast track filing. I kind of already went through a little bit of this in terms of making sure that you don't have any typos or anything. But as Carl mentioned, many of the required filing types don't have official forms created or provided by our office. So that means that you will need to refer to the Iowa code to determine everything that needs to be included in your documentation, or speak to your own legal counsel, or both. You're going to want to make sure that you have everything you need for your filing submission type before submitting your filing to our office. As I said before, fast track filing is convenient in that it won't let you move on if you're missing something. However, if you're filing by paper or through our website and you're doing it that way, just make sure that you have everything included. So for example, for an initial LLC filing, you're going to want you need a PDF of of a certificate of organization. And it does have to be in that PDF format, and it is required. So make sure that you have that ready to attach to your filing submission before you start your filing submission. So that way it saves you some time as well. And then know that what you type into fast track filing, as I've said previously, is what will appear on our office's records. Just make sure, again, to double check everything. And I just went through this, but this is a screenshot of what it looks like when you check your filing dashboard there. Some upcoming spring filing deadlines that are important to cover. As Carl highlighted, the biennial reports are due this year for LLCs. In addition to that, so they're going to be due by March 31st of this year, so 2025, for limited liability companies, limited partnerships, and nonprofit corporations. Please know that the deadline of March 31st means that you need to have submitted your biennial report to our office to ensure that it is actually received to us by that date. So that is important to keep in mind. So due by March 31st means that you have to have it, like it has to be to us by that date rather than you submitting it on that date. So just keep that in mind. And then additionally, for agricultural reports, those are also due by March 31st as well for owners of Iowa agricultural land. And again, you're going to want to make sure that that is ready to be received to us by that date so that we can go ahead and file and so that you don't have any issues with that. There is a tutorial on the Fast Track Filing Resource Center as well on submitting a biennial report at help.sos.iowa.gov. I know I just kind of showed you how to do that, but if you want to look at the tutorial at any time, that is available to you on there. Now we're going to go over some errors.
So, to help you avoid pitfalls that we see often, I'm just going to go over some errors that we see a lot in paper filings and documents that are submitted to our office. A big one is leaving out pieces of the document. So, for instance, if you were to try to file a certificate of organization for an LLC through fast track filing, but what you uploaded to the PDF upload part was not a certificate of organization. Sometimes people upload a section of the Iowa Code or something else that's not a certificate of organization. Or if you're filling in a paper form for something for our office, because there are forms for some things, biennial report's a big one, ag reports, but don't leave any of the required fields blank. Now, that sounds really obvious, but really what I'm asking you to do is after you've filled everything in, take a minute to stop and review the whole thing before you submit it, because it's easy to miss something that's on there if you're filling in information from other sources. Double check everything that's on any forms or PDFs you're going to upload to us. Something that I think we'll touch on later, but I want to mention right here is that if you're drafting something like that, like a certificate of organization, it has to have a heading at the top. It's under the Iowa Code, it's called a caption, but it's just a bold centered heading that tells the purpose of the document. So for a certificate of organization, the caption will be certificate of organization. Right? Just make sure that's on there. It is required, and it's a silly thing to get have your document returned for. Okay, so for LLCs and for profit corporations, there are several address requirements. The registered agent has to have a street and mailing address, and the principal office of the business has to have a street and mailing address. Now, they can all be the same address, especially for single member LLCs. A lot of the time, that's the case. People act as their own registered agent. And the principal office is where they're working out of, and it's the same place they receive mailings from us, so they'd be their registered office address. The important part is that if you just put an address and you don't tell us what it's the address for, so maybe it's the street and mailing address for the registered agent, make sure you say street and mailing address for the registered agent. If we don't see an explicit indication that the addresses are for those particular requirements, we have to return it because we don't know which one that's the address for. So you could be submitting something and have 4 addresses on there, and say it's the street address and the mailing address and the street address and the mailing address, or you can just specify what those addresses are for. I realize now that I'm saying it without looking at an example, it's kind of unclear what I'm talking about. But if you read that piece of the code and you go through, especially if you're going through fast track, it'll be pretty clear that you're indicating which is which. Just another thing that we see a lot and want to watch out for. All of the documents you submit to our office have to be signed. It sounds really obvious, like some of these things, but especially if you're doing, you're drafting your own document, make sure to put a signature block at the bottom, sign that. Different entity types have different requirements for who may sign. So a limited liability company is pretty easy. Any authorized person can sign. But if you're doing a profit corporation or nonprofit corporation, it has to be an officer of the corporation or the director for most of those filings. So make sure you're putting a signature block that says the who is signing, put the signature and what the title of that person is. Also, I mentioned the caption earlier. Caption in legal speak just means the heading, right? Make sure the heading clearly indicates what the document is for. So certificate of organization or, whatever it is.
Okay.
Is this you?
Yes, sorry. And then one other thing about the caption is the standard is for it to be centered and bolded as well. So just keep that in mind for that. So now we're going to go through some common questions that our business services team receives and then some answers to those questions. So what is the difference between a domestic and foreign entity? So the answer to that is that a domestic entity is an entity that was formed in Iowa. And then a foreign entity is an entity that was initially formed outside of Iowa and is registered to do business in the state of Iowa. So it's not as you might think of it as in terms of like domestic being the United States and foreign being a foreign country. It is just that the domestic entity was formed here in Iowa and a foreign entity was formed outside of Iowa initially, but is registered to also do business in the state of Iowa. You will see on fast track filing and then on our other forms that there are some separate forms, right? They're very similar, but they are kind of categorized in that way, domestic versus foreign. What is a registered agent? So I know we've been talking about the registered agent, and now I'm going to tell you what that is. So a registered agent is an individual or a business entity, depending on the business organization, that is going to be designated by the entity to accept service of process if a lawsuit is filed against the entity. So that is really important to have and required to have a registered agent. And then what is a biennial report? I know we've kind of gone over this a lot. However, it doesn't hurt to go over it again. So a biennial report is a report that most entities must file with our office every 2 years. And again, know that depending on the year that you register, this is new. So this is, as we've said, there's different filing years for different business structures. But please know that depending on the year that you register, you may be required to submit your first biennial report the following year. So I think, was it LLC is the example that Carl had an example of that the other day. That was really good.
If you formed an LLC in 2024, then you would owe us a biennial report in 2025.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like it's every 2 years, but it's the first odd numbered year after the year in which you register, right? So if you created an LLC in 2023 or in 2024, you'd owe us a biennial report in 2025. Then you'd be on the biennial cycle, 2025, 2027, 2029.
Yep. Thank you. And then will my name and address be publicly viewable? That is a question that we get. So the answer to that is that names and addresses provided on documents submitted to the state for filing are going to be public record. And they may be viewed by the public on our website. However, notaries may request that their personal information, I know that this presentation is not about notaries, obviously. However, if you are one, you can request that be hidden from public view. So there is an email address there. If you are a notary and you want that information hidden, you can email that email address. Like I said, I know that's kind of off topic, but additionally, what is a certificate of existence and how do I obtain one for my business entity? So a certificate of existence is not always needed, but it is needed in some cases. And that would be up to like you to kind of determine. There's some cases where you'll need it for bank loans. Or also based on your like registration type, if you want to like register in another state as well. These are going to be, a certificate of existence is issued for a domestic entity that is currently in good standing on the records of the Iowa Secretary of State. There is an easy way to obtain one. So to print a certificate of existence for your business entity, you will need to search our database on our website for your entity. If you're going to be searching by the name, the results are going to pop up and you'll need to click on the business number to access your business entity summary. And then if you search for your business entity by the business number, it will take you straight to that summary instead. And then on the summary, there's going to be a link titled Print Certificate of Existence. The page that comes up once that link is clicked on will have you choose a payment method. There is a small fee for this. It's like $5, yeah. And then once you've paid, you'll be able to print that certificate there. So don't close out of that page until you have actually printed your certificate. Another good point on this, there has been cases where there have been solicitations being mailed to business owners or registered agents that are trying to get money to have you get a certificate of existence. These are usually like going to be costing way more money than what it costs with our office. And our office is the one that provides the official certificate of existence. So if you do need one of those, you will just obtain that from going to our website, rather than we're not going to be like mailing you about soliciting to buy that, right? So just keep that in mind and be mindful of that.
If anyone tries to charge you more than $5 to get a certificate of existence, throw that away because you only need to pay us $5 to get it.
Yeah. Or you can actually report it to the Attorney General's office. Because if they get enough of those, they may take action. It kind of depends. There's some stipulations to that, right? But like that is something that our office worked on with them previously. So if you do want to report it, you can. And I'll include like a resource to their website and the follow-up email too, which you will receive after this. So, okay. So after that, we're going to be talking about dissolution, right? So my entity has been dissolved. How can I reinstate? So an example of like why someone might have their entity dissolved is if they failed to file their biennial report on time. Okay. So if you failed to file your biennial report on time, for example, and your entity was dissolved and you need to reinstate, that's called administrative dissolution. So you'll need to file an application for reinstatement. This form can be completed and submitted through the Fast Track Filing website. That's the easiest way to do it. It's not the only way, but it's the easiest and it's what works really well and smooth and quick. So after signing up and or logging into your Fast Track account, you're going to click on business filings in that navigation menu that I showed you earlier. Then that drop-down menu is going to appear again. You're going to want to click on file a document. And then you're going to go back to that section we were at earlier, so that existing entities section. And then on that, you're going to select application for reinstatement and you'll be able to proceed with that.
And that also was only $5.
That is good. Yeah.
But don't get dissolved. So
Yeah. And then, as I've said, those are questions that we can answer, fortunately, but unfortunately, there are some questions that we cannot answer. So I'll kind of go through some examples of those. So a good way to infer whether our office is able to answer your question is to consider whether it's open-ended and if the answer to your question is dependent on individual circumstances. If that is the case, our office cannot answer your question, unfortunately, but you may consult your own legal counsel. So for example, we have people ask us, can you tell me what goes in the filing? And the answer to that is no, we cannot tell you what goes in the filing. And you'll need to refer to the corresponding Iowa code, speak with your own legal counsel or both. Another question that we commonly get is which business structure should I create? So this is going to be highly individual and dependent on your specific situation. So because of that, we cannot tell you what type of business structure you should create because doing so would be considered providing legal advice. We can refer you to other organizations who can provide more information. Our referral does not mean that like we are endorsing them. And we also cannot like say for sure if they're going to be able to answer that specific question. But we can at least give you that referral and they would have resources in that area too. And we can encourage you to do research as well and or speak to your own legal counsel. See that we have some questions coming in, so I'll get to those in just a minute. But before that, I want to thank you again for joining us today. Here are some resources. So I will include these in the follow-up email as well. And I'll go ahead and paste them in the chat too, so that you can all just access them right away. But we have our website here, which is just sos.iowa.gov. The fast track filing website, again, is filings.sos.iowa.gov. The resource center is that help.sos.iowa.gov. America's SBDC Iowa. SBDC stands for Small Business Development Center, and they are funded in part through the Small Business Administration, which I have also included a link to their website. But they provide no cost personalized business counseling to business owners. They also have some additional educational programs and connection to like some financial opportunities and innovative opportunities and things like that. So a really good resource. They are statewide. So while their official like statewide office is like based in Ames, they have offices that cover every region of Iowa. So there should be one near you wherever you're at, which is really awesome. They do a lot of good work. And then SBA does a lot of awesome work as well. So they fund SBDC in part, as I mentioned. So that's the Small Business Administration. That is a federal government agency, but they have a Iowa branch. And so I've included the link to that. And they also have business counseling, some business planning resources. And then they have some certifications, actually, if you meet certain requirements of business, right? And some certain loans that they have access to as well. Additionally, the Iowa Economic Development Authority is another state agency. And I've included their website there. They do a lot with economic development, and they have a lot of really good resources for business planning and templates as well. And then they also are responsible for Iowa SourceLink, which has the resource navigator. Another thing I'll mention about Iowa Economic Development Authority that's awesome is that they have a targeted small business program. So that is a certified program, and if you meet certain requirements, you may qualify for that. So it is open to women business owners, people with disabilities that are business owners, veterans, service disabled connected veterans, and then also, service connected disabled veterans, and then people of color. And so you might want to check that out if you fall into one of those categories, and that's a really awesome resource and program too. Additionally, our office hosts these webinars on business related topics, and I've included a link to the playlist of those that are on our YouTube channel. So we've done a webinar on how to be more accessible as a business owner for the disabled community. We've done a webinar on workplace wellness. We've done how to like avoid scams and how you can also get involved in anti-trafficking initiatives as a business owner, and additional topics to those as well. So that's a good resource to check out. And then our office also has an initiative, which I work on with a team, that we interview business owners to get their stories of resilience and entrepreneurship, and how they've overcome their obstacles and what advice they have for new and upcoming business owners as well. So I've included a link to that playlist there. Currently, there's 3 videos on our YouTube channel for that. We will be adding more, but that's what we got for now. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen so it's easier to get to all of your questions. And we will go ahead and go to there. Thank you again for joining us. All right. So first question, is the received by March 31st due date applicable to mailed in biannual reports or just those submitted through fast track filing? In other words, is the postmark date not the submitted date?
Needs to be received by our office by March 31st. Don't send it on March 31st by mail, because the postmark date is not the date.
Thank you, Carl. If an LLC was formed in 2025, are they required to file a biannual report this year?
No, excellent question. 2027 would be the first year an LLC formed in 2025 would owe us a biannual report.
Is the only method of payment on fast track filing a credit card?
Technically, no. You can have a charge account through our office, but that is usually reserved for law firms and service companies and that sort of thing. We don't accept checks through Fast Track, if that's what you're asking. We don't do electronic check.
I heard that the FinCEN filing has been suspended. Do you have any information or explanation and update on this filing requirement? There is a lot happening with that, so that is a great question. That is a live grenade. What you always want to do regarding the FinCEN filing is go to FinCEN's website for the latest information on that. That's I'll put
Just
that chat too.
BOI, finfin.boi.
Yes, I'm gonna put it in the chat for you. They do have, sorry to cut you off, Carl, if I did, but they do have also a page to subscribe to their alerts.
Yeah.
So if you, like Carl said, you should check out their website because that is a federal government requirement.
Yeah.
And well, like we said, it's not necessarily a requirement. It's kind of like all over the place right now and they're trying to figure that out, right? But you're gonna want to go to this website here, which is FinCEN, so financial
Don't even try.
yeah, Financial Crime Enforcement Network. And so it's FINCEN.gov/BOI, right? And they have a subscribe to their page there too, like we said. So that's a really good resource to subscribe for free. And then you'll get the latest information actually from that source there.
That's gonna be the central, they're the source of information on that, so go to them.
Are the slides available for this webinar? Great question. Yes, I'm going to be sending the slides out to you. And I'll also send out the recording as well once that's ready. That will take a little bit of time just because we got to make sure the captioning, I always go through and just make sure that there's no typos in the captioning. We want to be as accessible and inclusive as possible. So that part will take a little bit of time, but yes, I'll get the slides to you and the links to those websites as well. So good question. Can you change a registered agent at any time?
Absolutely. You would just submit a change of registered agent. You can do that through fast track filing. And that's free. There's no cost to do that because it's very important that we have the most up-to-date information for your registered agent.
Yes, thank you, Carl. And I'm going to go ahead and type some other websites in the chat right now as well that we've mentioned. And like I said, I'll be emailing them to you too, but that way you just have them right now. I'm going to include, so right now we have the FinCEN BOI webpage and then our website, our fast track filing website, and then our help center website. Let me see. Do we have any more questions? We have any questions right now. If you think of any more, we still have some time, so go ahead and put those in there. Our next webinar is going to be on Wednesday, February 12th of this year. And that's going to be about business planning. So if you would like some more information about business planning, our office is going to be hosting that in partnership with SCORE Des Moines, which is a network of volunteers who have experience as business owners that help people wanting to be business owners or that are current business owners. So they provide, similar to like SBDC, they also provide that business counseling and those resources like templates and things like that. So we'll be joined by them on the 12th at 10:30 to 11:30 for that webinar as well. And so feel free to join us there. How can we update company officers?
So you can submit what's called a miscellaneous filing. If you feel like you need to update your officers on our records now, rather than waiting for your next biennial report cycle. Otherwise, the biennial report for a corporation will have fields on it for updating officers and directors. And that's an easy way to do that. If you do want to do it on the public record, when you make those changes, you can submit a miscellaneous filing to us. And your caption for that will be, a miscellaneous filing of change directors or whatever indicates the purpose. And then you're just going to explain what it is that you're doing.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember if I have it. Well, we still have some time here. I'm going to go ahead and put the LSA website too. So if you do want to look up those code sections, it's going to be the website that you're going to want to use, legis.iowa.gov. And that is a free website to use as well. You can also, if you're interested, subscribe to legislative like alerts, right? And you can actually filter by category. I know this is kind of like just me improving this, right? But like, I think it's important information for you to have as the legislative session just started back up, right? If you want to keep informed on any specific topics, there is a way for you to do that on their website. Our office did a webinar with them on this. And so if you go to that link that I'm going to send you to our webinars, we have one on there that goes more in depth on like how you can check the bill book. So for example, if you want to like look at legislation that might impact business, right? You can set up a free account and do so in order to like filter it so that you are made aware of any of those things, which is super convenient. So that's a good tool as well. Just keep informed on some legislation that may or may not impact your business. Let's see. Anything else there?
Probably call
All right, so with that, as I've said, you will get this webinar recording and the slides as well. I'll also be sending out a feedback survey. So if you would like to, our office really does appreciate that feedback if you'd like to fill it out. And I will send you the registration link for the February webinar too, as well as hyperlinks to these resources that we've mentioned already. Want to thank you again for joining us. We really do appreciate it and apologize again for that tardiness. But we really do appreciate your time and you joining us today and hope that you found the information helpful and everything. And we hope to see you again soon. So thank you again for joining us. And Carl, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you. Have a good day.